Welcome back to another episode of the Stick 'em Up podcast. Today, we're 20 hours away from the official end of the trade deadline, so it's Thursday. Obviously, there's been more trades in the last 2 weeks leading up to the trade deadline in season pass than any before. I think 2 weeks before the deadline, there's been 20 trades in recent memory. This year, there's been 40 in the last 2 weeks before the deadline.
Definitely more than I think everybody anticipated.
Yeah. I mean, real quick, I guess, why? What's the reason for that? Is there a specific reason?
I'm probably going to tell you off the top of my head. I mean, we all know last year the market for defensemen was set with probably either Josh Manson or Ben Sherrod. So
yeah.
I think Ben Sherrod was probably the one that really ruined it. To be honest, I mean he's not worth the first, obviously. But I don't know. I think markets are being set this year. I mean, we're seeing Tanner Jeannot go for that haul that we talked about last episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's all just about the market is broken. I think let's just say that.
Yeah.
You should not be going for that much.
No, definitely not. I don't think you should be going for that much either. But it also depends the GM who views their draft picks, their current team. Obviously, Tampa giving up that huge haul is very different than
My team.
Your team, the Penguins, a lot of different teams, because where Tampa said all their players now are officially locked, all their good players, you know what I mean, locked up long term now, so it's really just, what the gaps are going to be now in terms of contract length and everything. So obviously he's right, and if you last episode we read his quote on the draft picks, and for the most part it's right, but then you see other trades that we'll probably get into later, and you're like, wow, probably could have got more with that. So I mean, there's a lot to choose from right now. There's not many that haven't happened yet, but what's a trade that we should kick her off with? I have one in mind, but let's see.
I mean, if you have one off the top of your head, we can go for it.
I mean, I think we should start with a trade that's probably been taking the longest to even happen. Definitely 2 seasons it's been in the works. Probably could say 3, depending on how you view him. But it's just obvious. It's Jacob Chychrun. Obviously got traded on Tuesday, I believe, and for this year's first and 2 seconds to Ottawa.
All conditional, so.
Yeah, obviously the first in 2023 this year, it's going to be a first, but it's top 5 protected, which is pretty good. And then this year's second become next year's first if the Senators make the third round in this year's playoffs, which obviously is not going to happen. So it really is just a first and 2 seconds. The other second round pick has no conditions on it.
Maybe they will. Maybe they will make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
You know what? I hope they do. I hope they do.
Be very random, that's for sure. But yeah, this trade took 2 years, and everybody on social media has been saying the same thing, that the longer they waited, the less value they're going to get, which is obvious.
Yeah.
But
there's layers to that, I guess, as to why they waited.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely, especially the injuries and just finding the right trade. But I mean, I said to you earlier today, this is something that even the Pens could have.
Yeah, and that's talking about Chychrun, it can honestly be an hour and a half discussion with all the different teams that once were interested, fell off, picked it back up. The trade that almost happened 2 weeks ago with LA, and now all of a sudden teams like Pittsburgh, Washington, and St. Louis. Well, St. Louis, I guess, was around for a while, but those other 2 teams just really started kicking tires seriously around it the last 3 days, and now this is what the final thing came down to, which is unreal.
Underwhelming, that's for sure.
It's underwhelming, and it's just crazy because Pierre Dorian and, that whole staff and all that, they're really hard to dislike, but at the same time, they have all these great players in the last year and a half all of a sudden. Well, I was thinking about it today on my own, we said how Claude Giroux was kind of basically handed to them because he wanted to go there.
We all knew he was going to go there.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Rangers getting Kane. The player wanted to go there. Mm-hmm. Giroux chose you. You made it work. Congrats. The DeBrincat trade, I don't know if it's because you were that was a good trade for Ottawa, or if Chicago was that, willing to part ways with him.
I honestly think it was more Chicago willing to part ways. I mean, because I probably wouldn't have said that if they didn't, not qualify Kubalik, Strome, and then do what they did with Doc. So.
Well, which is crazy because you think when DeBrincat was put on the block, it was not long until he was traded. Whereas, with DeBrincat and Chychrun basically for the same thing, a first and 2 seconds. Oh, I think DeBrincat was a first, a second, and a third.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially the same thing.
It's not far off, basically.
Which, I mean, who do you think has more? I'd say I don't know. That's a whole different argument. I don't want to get too much, but you got DeBrincat, which was really good, and Stützle. It's you kind of got handed Stützle at the same time in the draft. You know what I mean? The contract and his actual production is a whole different thing, but you really did get handed Stützle. Sanderson you got because the Sharks made a terrible trade. Not even made a terrible trade for Carlson, just...
Was that the Carlson one? Was that the, oh yeah, that was the Carlson.
Oh no, or was it Stützle, number 3?
It
It was Stützle. Stützle was number 3. Stützle was because of San Jose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously there's no complaints with Jake Sanderson, but basically what I'm saying is Ottawa's now forming this amazing team, and it's really just, now it's all on the coaching. It is literally all on the coaching.
Yeah, and I have my opinions on the coaching, but like I mean, what do I know? My team just got waxed by them back to back, so.
I mean, they're good though. That's the thing. Like, they'll have their really good, when the Stars produce, they'll have their really good games, and other times you can see where that inexperience and that bad coaching sides come out of them when they're losing. You know what I mean? When they win, it's because the Stars showed up.
Yeah. And
I mean, I can almost count every single time that I've looked at a Ottawa Senators game and looked at who scores, and it's all the big guys. It's everyone who should be there.
Yeah, I mean, I think what, like as Red Wings fans, what we noticed from the back-to-back that we lost both, and we just got outplayed, outworked, out everything, is that like the way their their top 2 lines perform is because their bottom 2 lines just go in and they just like, they pester you and they annoy you and they kill you.
What?
And it worked.
What you just said is kind of crazy because what's a team that's very similar to that that's years and years ahead of Ottawa, obviously? It's in the same division, that is Tampa.
Yeah.
They're top 6. I mean, some of the players on the top 6 grind too, but I mean, look how Julian Breezewell is forming the bottom 6 now.
Mm-hmm.
You have that veteran 4th line, and you have that young, speedy, feisty 3rd line.
Which isn't the takeaway from that 3rd line either of Tampa. Nick Paul's like he's gonna have like 30-something points this year, 35. Like he's a good player, but but it's the same thing. I think that's what Red Wings fans notice, is that they annoy you with their bottom 6, and then their top 6 is skill. Like I'm not gonna take that away from them.
Yeah,
and that's.
I mean, honestly, good for Pierre Dorion because I remember in the summer, Ottawa was heavily into him. Obviously, there was all those rumors. It cooled off a little bit during the season. He was able to trade Nikita Zaitsev's contract for only a 2nd and a 4th, which is honestly pretty impressive for Zaitsev's contract because I think it was definitely one, maybe
it's 2 more.
2 more after this one for only a 2nd and a 4th. Yeah, that's pretty good. So all in all, I think Ottawa. I mean, your future's already laid out. There's no more big starts for you to get. Mm-hmm. Maybe a goaltender, but they really do like Mads Sogard, and they were in trade discussions with Arizona. They wanted either Wrigley, Gregg, or Sogard, and they were not willing to part ways with them.
Wow. I didn't even know that, but I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's like, what, 24, 25? He's young. I mean, for...
Who, Sogard?
Yeah.
22.
Oh, okay, wow, that's even...
Yeah, he's 22.
That's even more surprising.
Yeah, but obviously, Chychrun's about to turn 25 in a month. 25, so basically 25 years old. 2 more seasons after this at 4.6. I mean, so for Ottawa, I'm giving it an A+.
Yeah.
Me personally.
Yeah, because like I said, this is an offer that like, if not all,
it's
the entire league could have given this up for what actually ended up being the deal. I mean, the Pens could.
I mean, if you would have told me, again, 3 seasons ago, 2 seasons ago, 1 season ago, 4 months ago, that the Penguins were in the last minute chances of getting Jacob Chychrun, my mind would have been blown. Granted, I wanted him. I never got my hopes up because I never knew it was going to happen, but. The last day or 2, I was like really like, I think we were like, I was like, they're actually in this? Like, there's no way.
And then we were thinking like, and then you and I would like would come up with all these like theoreticals, like what would the trade actually be, because the asking price is supposed to be hefty, as it should be, and it ended up being not anything near that, so. Yeah.
I think that's like enough for the Jacob Chychrun talk. I mean, but like, actually real quick, for Arizona, like, do you learn from this? I mean, like, are you happy with the return? Because you already have all these other assets on your team. They don't have a lot of draft picks, like high draft picks for 2023, but it's in 24 and 25 where they have a lot. But, like, are you happy with this? You already have so many draft picks that you either already have or gonna have.
Yeah, it's like, does it faze them? I mean, not getting the... I mean, the Kings, like, trade that everybody thought was gonna happen, like, was it Clark and... there was all those like
Velarde.
Yeah, there was a bunch of rumors of that actually being the case, which in my mind is a way better deal than what they actually what they accepted.
Yeah, I think it's also too. I think you kind of hope. Yeah, it can't be top 5 obviously, But, I mean, obviously, Ottawa's definitely not going to make the playoffs. It obviously could happen. They've been playing really well. But there's too many teams that are in the chase right now. So I'm just going to say that Ottawa's not going to make the playoffs. But if you're Arizona, I think you hope that pick falls somewhere between 10 and 15. 10 to 15 for this kind of draft is really good because you're not giving up a lot of value to get somewhere in between there as of right now, and yet you're still going to get a really good player.
So you don't think Ottawa has a chance, or you don't think they're going to make it?
No, I don't think they're going to make it, but then it's also like, where does that pick end up? And I'm saying for Arizona, you kind of hope that's somewhere from 10 to 15 or be more realistic, 12 to 18.
I mean, Florida's now bumped out of a spot for the wild card, and now it's just the Islanders and the Pens. Buffalo right behind both those teams.
I think it's between the Islanders, Penguins, and Buffalo.
Yeah, and they have a game. They have a game in hand, which I didn't even know.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's enough of that for the Chychrun trade. We want to talk about the Matthias Ekholm one next because I think that's a crazy one to talk about because I don't know whether to like it or hate it for the Oilers. Obviously, for Nashville, I have no problem with it. I give it an A for Nashville right away, not even depending on. And now we can talk about Nashville so much more differently now. I think we've already talked about them in the past, but now it's completely different because I didn't see any of this coming.
Well, let's get the obvious out. Well, obvious to us at least. I don't know everybody watching, but the asking price they wanted was 2 firsts for Matthias Ekholm.
Which is fair because he's very good, but I mean, it happened though. They really got 2 firsts for him because of Reed Schaefer. I mean, he was drafted 32nd overall in 2022, very last pick in the first round, but he's point per game in juniors right now. He's basically a first round equivalent as of right now.
That's probably what they.
You know what I mean? So it really is 2 firsts and a 4th, and they got a 4th back. They got a 6th back. So it's $250,000 was retained, which is kind of weird. Doesn't really matter. But Matthias Ekholm, $6 million this season and 3 more after. He's 32.
Yeah,
he can play the left and the right. Top 4 defenseman, definitely this season and next. I don't argue at all. And you're parting ways with Tyson Barrie. And I heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, they just got rid of their number 1 QB on the power play." You have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. How many of those points that you think Barrie got from just dropping the puck off to either one of them?
I'm sure Evan Bouchard will have no problem just.
Or how about you give it to Darnell Nurse, who you're paying $9.5 to? I think he can handle it. Give it to Phillip. Basically, you could plug any defenseman there, or they can be like the Leafs and start running 5 forwards.
Yeah.
Either option is fine.
And just roll one unit.
For Ekholm, you can even put him on the top unit. Injuries happen, you put him on there. But for the most part, you can even have him live in the second unit too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think how many years did you say is?
3 more after this one.
I mean, this year it's a fine contract. Next year, it's more so with age and everything. You kind of worry about that.
It's more so of a win now contract.
Yeah. I mean, not to take anything away from Ekholm, he's a great top 4 defenseman.
And it'll probably be good for a while, but at his full service is right now.
Yeah. I mean, Ken Holland, the one issue with when he was in Detroit was that he didn't know how to properly and how to properly buy in on during the trade deadline, either giving up too much or going after just the complete wrong player. They went after the right player, in my opinion.
No, yeah, me personally, I think that Ken Holland over the last 2 seasons has been bringing in the right players, or at least bring in players and they are fitting, whether people didn't think they were going to or not. Like bringing in Hyman, bringing in Kane. I mean, I can go on. Obviously, Campbell's bad, but we don't really need to talk about that. But Ken Holland found the main issue. I mean, when you have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on your team, your issue's probably on defense. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? The bottom 6 isn't as bad as people try to make it out to be sometimes.
Yeah, Warren Fogel's having a resurgence apparently.
And Jesse Puljujarvi's gone. You finally close that chapter. I think that's just a huge weight, not even lifted for Ken Holland and Puljujarvi alone, but for the entire Edmonton Oilers team and staff. You know what I mean? Granted, I'm sure they wanted the best for Puljujarvi and everything, but I'm sure they're so happy to see him go because now that he's finally there was no more expectations from him. They don't expect anything from him anymore. There's no room left for him to disappoint.
Yeah, it's one less concern for management, and I guess also the locker room as well. I don't think he was a cancer in that room. At least I've never read anything.
No, definitely, I'm not saying that either.
But it's just he was a top. He was third overall. He
Fourth.
was fourth overall in the 16 draft. You know,
And right from the start, it wasn't. Were so many things.
and there was moments where you thought maybe there was
Like last season.
yeah, last
regular
season.
season.
Yeah, last regular season, especially in the first half, where
Yeah.
he was doing he was honestly pretty decent. And then whenever he was overseas, whatever league and team he was on, he actually, I'm pretty sure, produced fairly well. So it
Stunk in the playoffs last season.
it gave, I think, Oilers fans a little glimpse of hope. But I mean, obviously, it didn't.
I think Puljujarvi, in Edmonton in total, he's had 2 or 3 really highs. Obviously, when he first got drafted, and maybe last season as well. And I think he's had probably 3 or 4 really low points.
Mm-hmm.
So,
This
but-
one of them.
Honestly, I think this is a high point for
No, I
him.
meant the regular, this.
Oh, this regular season? I don't know. I kind of see it as a more Bluger thing. They kind of just gave up, or it is what it is with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's only so much fighting you can do with a player before you're or I think a better comparable would be Kapanen. This is just what you are.
Yeah.
This is just what you are on this team at least with this core. So
And then he might go to Carolina and just make us eat our words.
yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised. But yeah. So Ekholm, I mean, right now I think I'll be generous. I'll give it a B plus for the Oilers.
Mm-hmm.
Give it an A plus for the Predators.
Got a good return, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely got a lot there. So the next trade, I mean, any direction you really want to go in, I'll let it. You can pick this one. We can just take turns with it.
I want to make these two quick because it's not. I don't think it's anything significant, but it's Johansson for the third. It was just a depth.
I mean, I might as well just talk about all the Capitals news because I wanted to talk about Sandin too.
Yeah, all right, we'll start with that one. So this was, the Capitals, who are obviously selling for this season. They don't really see playoffs as a likely outcome. So they get a third for Johansson, which I think is a good price, honestly, for both teams. And then you just want to get into Sandy.
Yeah, I mean, well, first, the Marcus Johansson one, I mean, he's been on 7 different teams now, a lot in the last few years. Second time joining Washington already. Probably when he first signed in the offseason, it was going to go a little bit more different.
This is the second time on the Wild, too.
The second time on the, I was just about to say that. Get a third for, a UFA you just brought in. And their forwards, they still have 12 to 13 NHL caliber forwards healthy right now, too.
The Caps?
With the Caps, which is crazy, yeah. But then, now the Sandin trade. It's a great trade. I mean, Rasmus Sandin, if you're listening to this and you follow hockey, you probably know that he's a really good defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
For, what is he, 22? 23?
21, 22.
Yeah.
He's 22.
He's on a $2 million cap for this season and next, so it's cost control. The Capitals didn't have any defensemen signed after this season aside from Karlsson until Sandin got here. Obviously, they signed Jensen a couple hours later, but at the time, Sandin was their second defenseman signed through next season already. So he's already getting top 4 minutes. You know what I mean? Probably second pair minutes.
Probably be smart. Yeah.
Behind Karlsson, both left shot. But, I mean, Sandin's a
Right.
great... Or right... Oh, yeah.
Sandin,
he might get top.
Sandin's a left. He's a right. Is Karlsson, is he skating or is he back?
I don't know. I think he's still going to be out a little while longer.
Ideally, you put him on the second pair. I mean, because
He basically don't put as long as he's not on the third because in Toronto,
that's where he was stuck.
aside from injuries and all that stuff, he was either a healthy scratch or he was stuck there, and he literally shattered third pairing minutes. It was way too easy for him. It's basically Bedard in the juniors, what it's like this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, obviously, he didn't even put up all those points, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And the way the sample size he was given, and I mean, to be fair, Sheldon Keefe didn't really trust him at all in the last 2 to 3 seasons there, anyways. So, and for the Leafs, would they trade Boston's pick? So you basically traded a 28 to 32nd overall pick
It was
to
Boston's.
Toronto for Sandin, and you also flipped Gustafsson, who's an expiring UFA. You know what I mean?
As a Red Wings fan, I always wanted Sandin. I remember when the Bertuzzi rumors were hot last
This
year.
offseason,
Yeah,
anyone could have had him.
I was so expecting Eisman to make a move on him, and he's good, and he's not I feel like people. I think the reason why he doesn't get the recognition is how you already stated is that he was plateaued on the third pair. He could not, aside from injuries, he could not make his way up. He can play. He's good defensively, good offensively, and surprisingly, he's actually can throw the body around for just was he 5'11"?
Dude,
he's not big.
Oh,
He's not-
he had that big hit on
on Wheeler.
Wheeler, it was
Yeah.
Wheeler, yeah. That was this season, yeah.
That was a crit. Or was
But yeah.
Was it last year? I think it was last year.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was last season. I mean, I even had Sandin on my fantasy team at a time,
No,
this
I
point
have.
too.
Yeah.
You have too. Like, granted, it doesn't mean how good you are, but it like shows like at times he's hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At times he's hot, and I had Gustafson on my fantasy team for the longest time, and I just dropped him because
He was hot.
he got traded to Toronto. He's not getting top 4. He's not even. He's like their 8th best, 9th best defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 9th at this point. So, I think that the Leafs have to trade either one of Gustafson or Justin Hull by tomorrow because they have like 9 to 10 good defensemen. So, I mean, obviously that's never a bad thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
But realistically, Hull's gone in the offseason. So if you can get literally anything for him, I think you do. But the Leafs aren't the talk. But the Capitals, I mean, they're doing everything right. As much as I hate to admit it, and even they traded Lars Eller for a 2nd-round pick. Granted, it's Colorado's in 2025. But how many? Let me ask you a question. Out of all these recent 4 trades that they've done, how many of those draft picks that they got do you think they're actually going to draft with?
The Caps?
Yeah. I'll tell you, they got a 2nd. They already flipped the 1st from Boston. They got a 2nd, a 3rd, and another 2nd and a 3rd. So they got 2 seconds and 2 thirds in total. Out of those 4, what do you think they're actually? They already flipped a 1st for Sandin.
I mean, maybe 2. They'll
Yeah,
do
I mean,
so.
basically what I'm saying is like they're going to use these players that they don't need for the rest of this season, get picks for them, and use those picks to get players to help them next season and the season after because they're still going to try and go for it. They're still going to try and be competitive.
Yeah. Whether or not it's a smart thing is a whole different
That's
conversation.
a whole different conversation, but with Ovechkin, we at least know
They're going to try.
where you're coming from and why you're doing it.
Mhm.
But this is a great start, and honestly, Sandin, he's a player that could be in your team for the next 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 22 years old. Sometimes I forget how young he is, but I would have loved that.
As long as you and then I mean, they also have other great young defensemen that he can play with too. That Faravari, that Alexiev guy. I mean, don't know how good he's going to be, but for the rest of this season, he's going to have a chance to play.
I think they're high, or not high, but I'm not saying he's going to
Yeah.
shatter expectations.
I know.
Alexiev, dude, I think people he's good. He's sound defensively and everything. So
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So for the Capitals and that trade, that's basically it. Might as well, while we're on it with Toronto, we can discuss the 3 trades they made yesterday, or 2 yesterday and 1 3 days ago. We'll start with the obvious, Jake McCabe. I did not know that Jake McCabe was this good, was top in the league of block shots and hits and all that stuff. I had no idea, probably because he was sheltered in Chicago. But I told you, when he was in Buffalo 2-3 seasons ago, I knew he was good because of his analytics and stuff. But yeah, this is an all-in trade by the Leafs, obviously.
yeah, I mean, out of how we said they have 8 usable defensemen, he's definitely part of the top 6.
And he's part of their future, too. They got them to retain 50%. We knew what the price was for McCabe flat out, and we knew what it was for McCabe retained. I'm honestly surprised the Leafs chose to go that route to get the 50% retained, but good on them because you got Jake McCabe for this season and 2 more at the same cap as Justin Hull.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, how old is he as well, McCabe?
McCabe, give me 1 second. He is.
He's gotta be
He's got to be 20. He's 29. He'll be 30 at the start of next season.
That's not bad. No, I mean, yeah,
He's got him in his prime.
It's a good trade. I mean,
It's your Jake Muzzin replacement too.
essentially, yeah. Since Muzzin's
They do the same thing.
most likely done with hockey with all his injuries, but yeah, it's a good trade.
Sam Lafferty too. No, all about that.
Yeah, especially the first
Mhm.
2 months of the season, whenever.
I mean, it really
Yeah.
is just McCabe at 50% and Lafferty for a 2025 first, which is also top 10 protected. So by chance they lose Matthews and Nylander somehow, they're still. So again, Cal Dubas,
He's so cool if that happened.
he's such a good GM when it comes to stuff like this because he doesn't even know if he's going to be there in July. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he cares about his players, and it's top 10 protected in 2025.
You can't say he's screwing over the team even if he's not there because I mean
He set you up with Jake McCabe at $2 million for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but with that though, they had cut some players. Pierre Engvall sent to the Islanders for a 2024 third-round pick, cleared 2.25 change of cap space. Pierre Engvall, he's a great player. Just first off, expiring UFA, so any GM loves to get rid of that.
Mhm.
Send him to the Islanders. He's going to get his ice time already because of the injuries. Got him for a third-round pick too, and he's a great player. They drafted this player in 2014, by the way.
What is he? 25, 26? Something
26. He's
something
26.
around there.
He won a Calder Cup with the Marlies in 2018. That's when he first came over. So he's been with Cal Dubas. He's been with Shanahan for a very long time, and apparently he just isn't physical at all.
Well,
that's his problem.
That's probably what they're going to tell him to do over in Long Island. I mean, he also he's like the fastest player on the league.
Great shot too.
Yeah, he's going to be a good bottom six, middle six guy.
You can honestly re-sign him for what he's making right now. I think it's a good value for him.
After the deadline is going to be a good stint to see what they want to do with him. Obviously, they probably don't want to lose him for nothing.
No, if he doesn't fit, get rid of him. But if you think he fits, it's Lou Lamoriello too, so we won't even know if they re-sign him until September of next year.
Yeah.
But if he fits, there should be no reason not to bring this guy back.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, I think he'll do well in Long Island. The fact that I don't know if it's like I think it is like a captain situation where there's like some hidden potential. You just couldn't crack it with the team that he was on.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And then also they're bringing back Luke Shen. Got drafted there. Was on some pretty dark times with that team. We got him for a third. So basically, last year's deadline, they got a third for Dermott, and now they're giving up a third for Shen. So essentially, it's Shen for Dermott. And this season, at least, I really like that move.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's hard to see things like that, but again, Shen, Leafs played last night, got blown up by the Oilers. He didn't even play. Neither did Gustafsson. That's why I think either one of Gustafsson or Hall is going to get traded because, first off, they don't even need Gustafsson. I think he was just a throw-in because obviously any team could have interest in Gustafsson because he's having a great year and you're not going to need to give up a lot for him. So I feel like Dubas might flip him, but because he really sucks at defense. So if you're in the playoffs and you have a lot of injuries and you have to throw Gustafsson in, well, it's going to be kind of scary because he's going to give up goals. You know what I mean?
He'll move the puck, but he's not going to do the best at defending. But that's expected.
But obviously with Dubas, in trying to predict Dubas' moves, it takes such big brain thinking.
Yeah.
And that's why you got to give a lot of the media credit for what they do because, I mean, McCabe and Lafferty's been predicted or at least assumed for probably 2 or 3 weeks now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But other than that, I think Luke Shen, 6th, 7th defenseman, they're going to use him as hit, block, that's really it. Mm-hmm. And it's just cool to bring him back because apparently when they got McCabe, because they got McCabe a day before Shen, McCabe chose the number 2, and then they got Shen, and obviously Shen wears that number now, and he wore it when he was with the Leafs to begin with, and he asked McCabe for the number, and he got it.
No, it is nice because he was drafted by them. Like you said, he was with Toronto during their dark times. So I mean, it's
any player that comes back to the Leafs after those dark times deserves something.
Yeah, I mean, he wanted to come back with them. I think after the Cup or the Lightning's first win.
Yeah, that's right.
So and obviously it didn't happen for whatever reason. But I mean, it's finally his dream or whatever is it's being sought out. So it's good to see him back.
Yeah. So after covering Toronto, that was a lot. You said today, by the way, you still take the Lightning. I have to agree. I think. But nonetheless, that's probably a little bonus episode that we might record on where we think everyone's going to go. But I think it's finally time for these next 2 teams. We'll talk about the 2 trades that the Red Wings and the Penguins made. Mm-hmm. And after that, we'll see where we are in time. And then we'll take it from there. So
it's fair to cover our teams for as little as we normally do. So.
Yeah, because but just let's start with the Red Wings. Why don't we? Let's start with the first one that happened yesterday. Probably, I would say so far, like I said, we got 40-something trades in the last 2 weeks. I would say this one's probably the most surprising, or if it's not, it's definitely top 3. But I'll announce it. The Canucks acquire Philip Hronik and a 2023 fourth for a 2023 first, which is the Islanders.
Part of the Horvat trade.
Which is, still conditional. What is that, top 12?
12, yeah.
Top 12 protected. And then a 2023 second that is Vancouver, so it's a high-end second.
Yeah.
Which I don't think a lot of people noticed.
That was, that was the part that really threw me off. I mean, aside from the actual trade happening on Vancouver's side of things, which I don't get really at all why they did that. I don't know what is what's going on in Jim Rutherford's mind is beyond me.
Again, the Canucks right now, because we'll say it real quick, we don't have to talk about it, but already over the cap for next year.
Yeah.
Dude, the trade deadline's not even over and you have that issue. So we need to talk about that for sure, but we'll see if they make any trades in the next 24 hours because that can still happen. But we can definitely talk about that, but for right now...
I'm glad, I'm happy with the return. Again, I don't know why Vancouver did it. I told you that there was a photo of after the last Senators game of Hronik leaving the game with the arm sling. So that was that made me laugh even more when I saw this trade. I think Hronik is having a good year offensively.
He cooled down a lot, I noticed.
Oh yeah, he did because he got paired with Ben Sherrod. Because
Yeah.
all his hot play was with Mata.
Yeah.
Mata actually elevated his game, which is really funny to see.
Is he playing on the right side tonight instead of Sherrod, by the way?
Mata? No, I think Sherrod is.
Oh, okay.
I'm really interested to see how that pair does, but that's besides the point. But yeah, all of his hot play was when he was with paired with Mata, which basically helped this trade. So.
Yeah, I mean, even 2 seasons ago, too, in the shortened season when he was the #1 defenseman, getting #1 power play time, hitting all those empty netters and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, I mean, obviously you, as a Red Wings fan, have been complaining about Hronik for the last 3 seasons now, whereas a lot of other Red Wings fans tend to defend him. I remember in the offseason, over the summer on Cap Friendly, you can do those armchair GMs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was bored, and I did a Red Wings one, and I ended up trading Hronik for a second and a third. I don't know for where it doesn't matter. Basically, everyone was bashing me for hating to do it because they think he was worth so much more than that. And obviously, his defensive game was very poor. But I think Washington thought he was worth more than
Vancouver.
Vancouver was worth more than just a second and a third.
If you watch Hronik's game, even this year, even though it was better defensively, but it wasn't anything mind blowing. But if you watch his game, like I have, he's known for just rimming the puck when he probably shouldn't. He makes very careless defensive plays. There's times where he can
a Chris Letang, maybe just stupid plays.
Yeah, there's times where he makes too simple of a play that can it costs him. I remember watching the highlights from we played the Blue Jackets earlier in the year, and I was just watching this randomly, and Johnny Gaudreau was on his back, tailing him. Defensemen, they bank it off the boards back into the neutral zone. He did not need to do that, and he gave it right to I think it was whoever.
Maybe line.
I don't know. It's just he's not very sound defensively, and he isn't aware of all the possibilities and routes that he can take. I don't know who he's going to be paired with in Vancouver.
They have a whole bunch. I think Bear and OEL are already hurt. Plus, they traded Shen, so that defensive core is a whole mess.
I will say what you will get from he is, especially this year, he switched his stick. He used to use a big square blade, and another thing that aggravated Red Wings fans is that every time he would take one-timers or just slap shots, he would miss the net by a mile. And he switched his blade from the square toe and some other specs to something else. And his shot is great. Mm-hmm. And now he can actually hit the net. He has 9 goals on the season. So.
Well, he's not going to get top power play time because of Quinn Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
Should definitely at least, be in the race for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Fully healthy because OEL, but maybe Hughes can give him a couple points. The Canucks have to know that he's primarily an offensive defenseman.
Well, yeah.
That has to be known to them. You know what I mean?
And also, as Red Wings fans, I can advocate for this. Is that he is not a power play quarterback. I remember when we were.
Maybe not a #1 power play quarterback.
I just don't think he's one in general because I remember definitely not a #1.
Okay, maybe he's a defenseman where he put 2 out there on the second unit.
Yeah, that's fine, but he shouldn't be quarterback.
Okay.
I remember watching when we went to the Pens Red Wings game, and there was times where when we were on the power play, he just looked so stagnated at the point, and I was just I don't know how he could lose the puck from whoever was killing, but he's just not a power play quarterback.
Yeah, but it also does make sense why the Canucks made this trade because Rutherford said, even the whole season that's what they've been trying to do. They want young players under the age of 25, getting Jack Stednicka, Mikey DiPietro, Vitaly Kravtsov, so on and so forth. Hronik's 25, 1 more year of 4.4.
Or they traded DiPietro. Didn't they trade?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
they got
for Stednicka.
Stednicka, yeah. But I think Hronik's still going to be an RFA next season, right?
Yeah. So yeah.
But it's arbitration too, which is very scary. But obviously, if the Canucks, you're not looking for that right now. You're just looking at the nice cap hit you got him at.
Mm-hmm.
But he's going to get top 4 minutes, or at least should. I think it's definitely an overpay because if you actually want to look at this, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll tell you it's an overpay. I'm glad we got it.
Because if you actually think about it, they really they gave up Bo Horvat, their own second for this season,
which is essentially a first.
For what? A 4th Hronik and Ratty?
Yeah, I think so.
You know what I mean?
Maybe I shouldn't say essentially a first.
Usually you shouldn't look at it like that, the way I just said it.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, when you have two huge trades that are so close apart, that's what you got.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gave up Horvat for Philip Hronik and Otto Ratty, or however you say his name. You know what I mean?
Forget how it's.
Now, granted, he actually might pan out because he's actually getting NHL ice time, which is very good for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. You gave up your captain
For Philip Peronic. Yeah, everyone's doing it. I mean, I don't see an issue.
And your second round pick that's essentially,
It's going to be close to a
40,
first round.
40, 45. 45 at the latest, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. Iserman, at this point, Jim Rutherford especially. Jim Rutherford and Lou Lamoriello are two teams that should not be trading with Steve Yzerman, but yet they continue to do so, and they continue to lose.
They can do it as long as they want. I'm not going to stop them.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think I give it a B for Vancouver because it's still, at the end of the day, it still does fill a need for them, and it checks some of the boxes that they wanted.
He has some pros as a defenseman.
So I give it a B, and then obviously for Detroit an A+.
I'm giving it an A. I mean, we got a first round.
Anytime, no matter what kind of team you are, literally what stage, how good or how bad you are, anytime that you can clear cap without taking it on is always a plus. You know what I mean?
Get a first rounder as well.
Yeah. And Hronik is obviously young, but I guess it matches the Canucks timeline more than the Red Wings. But again, that's also going to get into nitpicking. But none of that. Now.
Yeah, he's 25. He turns 26 this year, so.
But realistically, I think the Canucks would want a little bit younger. If anything, I would think the Red Wings would be looking for that 23 to 26-year-old defenseman.
I mean, but they have this mind that they're in a retool, so that's probably why they see the 25 and they're like not upset with it.
But when you have Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson sign contracts, playing amazing, you know what I mean? It's so hard not to compete as an NHL team, not wanting to compete. You know what I mean? But I don't want to waste any more time because we're already going to get cut short. But first thing we both wake up to this morning, Tyler Bertuzzi finally getting traded. For the last 2 weeks, he was off the block. Before that, he was on the block. All this stuff, injuries, the vaccine, have the last 2 to 3 years, COVID for this player has completely changed what he was supposed to be on at 23, 24 years old. But here we are now. He's in the last year of his contract, expiring UFA. Only 4 goals on the season, and you got a good haul for him, I think.
The Bruins got a Bruin, essentially.
They got a Bruin, but they also are betting on themselves for next year.
Yeah.
It is so okay to bet on yourselves for this year's as the Bruins. I don't think anyone cares that you gave up a first-round pick this year, but you're betting on yourselves now. Now there's kind of a gap now that you built.
I totally forgot. I don't know how I forgot that they didn't have their first this year. Again, I also probably should have expected that because they're all in. But yeah, it was their first next year and then a fourth in 2025, which is it's whatever. But basically, it's just a first for Bertuzzi.
Yeah.
You just want to look at it.
I mean, it's top 10 protected in 2024, which I'm assuming to say it's not. It flips to an unprotected in 2025. That's what I'm going to assume happens.
I think so. Yeah.
But I don't think the Bruins are definitely going to be a bottom 10. Will they make the playoffs? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Whatever. Basically, what I'm saying is they're not going to be a bottom 10 team. So realistically, that pick next year can be anywhere from, I'll probably say from 15 to 32 next year.
Yeah.
Actually, if I want to be even more realistic, probably 15 to 28, I'd say.
Yeah, honestly, I bet against the Bruins every year, and I eat my words, especially this year.
But you got to think about it though. They had to put Taylor Hall on LTIR to even make this trade happen, right? So with that, you're not accruing cap space, which is one thing. And I saw something that Cap Friendly tweeted. I'm not gonna say exactly, but since Krejci and Bergeron have those performance salaries, you know what I mean? Having no cap space and using LTIR makes their bonus salary count against towards next year's cap. So they're already in cap hell, especially after signing Poss. I think they have around $2 million in cap space for next season, I think.
Yeah. Well, they weren't going to bring him back anyway.
Yeah, I know. But what I mean is, which is already bad, and then you're going to have Bergeron and Krejci's penalties counted towards that. So then you're going to lose Orlov, Hathaway, Bertuzzi, all those players that you already have, and the current UFAs that you already had. So it's going to be hard to improve your team. You know what I mean? So anything. That's what I mean when they're betting on themselves, because the defense is fun for next year, and so is the goaltending. It's that four-core that's really scary.
Yeah, I mean, from a Red Wings standpoint, it is sad to see him go. I mean, if you watch the media releases with Larkin, he was literally crying. It was his best friend basically since he was in the NHL.
And that line of Mantha, Larkin,
at one
Bertuzzi.
point was was one of the lines people were
I swear, I felt
about.
like Bertuzzi and Mantha were putting up 3 and 4 goal games like it was nothing.
Yeah, and it ruined our odds to get Jack Hughes, but I mean, Sauer was a good consolation prize.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, it is sad to see him go. I am glad we got a first for him.
Because
Obviously, last year moving
dude,
him would have been a lot more.
I'm going to be honest, like, yes, Steve Yzerman is the best GM in the league. I can 100% confidently say that.
Thanks.
Maybe Sakic and Breezewiller and Dubas are up there for sure. I think
it's the big three.
yeah,
That's it.
4 maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need one more. We need one more before we move on.
Drury.
Yeah. I don't know if he's good, but he's just making the right moves, I guess. We'll say him for whatever. So whatever. But I mean, you have Bertuzzi. The fact that you got a first for him, I don't know how Steve Yzerman negotiates, but
He must have like blackmail.
didn't Bertuzzi have a good game like a couple days ago, like one good game or two?
I mean, basically ever since All-Star break, we came back.
But no, like he has 4 goals though. He still has 4 goals. So it was I want to know how Yzerman, negotiated. I think the 4th is for the salary. You can basically chalk that up to that, I guess.
I guess he's very persuasive. Because, I mean, yeah, we did.
But then again, it's also like how do GMs value draft picks? You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
For all we know, Don Sweeney could view it the same way that Julian Breezeball does.
Yeah, when he called Don Sweeney, he probably said, look at last year. He can score 30. Obviously, he's not going to score 30 this year. He's going off a pedigree. Even when we were in
You're clearly all in.
Yeah, in the middle, we were bad, like horrific. I mean, he was still putting up half point per game. He put up 50.
He'll be in the top 6 right away now that Hall's out.
Yeah, and then also he plays like Bruins hockey. He literally does. So
yeah.
I think he used those 3 things, and that's how he got his first.
Yeah.
The 4th is whatever. I don't really care. I'm glad we got a first. So.
And like we were talking about earlier too in the day, that you can also flip it. You have so much time to flip that for something else.
Yeah, well,
you literally have like a year and a half to flip that pick before it actually needs drafted.
Yeah, I sometimes I forget that the trade deadline's still going on. Anything can happen from now until tomorrow.
Dude, yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
who knows if Steve does something from now to then? If he doesn't, cool. If he does, depends what it is.
If you don't, you got 4 first-round picks in the next 2 drafts.
Just check Twitter. Okay.
But it's also interesting to see because it's like, okay, the Red Wings aren't going to make the playoffs now. It's fair to say that.
Yeah.
So you have whatever pick they're going to lie in. Islanders, if they don't, so you have 2 picks that are probably going to be somewhere close.
So I'm really betting against.
So you can maybe package that up and move up.
Move up, or acquire someone else.
But it's also going to be really hard to move up. Moving up in the top 3 is definitely not going to happen.
No. And even out of the top 3, from 4 to 50, this draft is.
Okay, we'll basically say that of top 5 picks, you're not trading up for a top 5 pick. But 6 to 10, I like that.
Would not mind that at all.
Yeah, but either way, so that pick can be anything.
Even if we don't even move up in the draft and it's for a player, I'm fine with that, because it's also like
just draft it. You know what I mean? It's
It's
Steve Yzerman drafting the first round. I think you're going to be okay.
It's also like, this is a conversation for a later date, because this is more deadline stuff. The Red Wings are like next year, like that's when we're gonna making the playoffs is like kind of a must. Like we need to start doing it. So it's like enough. Like it's getting more so like, okay, you can get picks, which is fine, and high overall picks, but it's like some of these picks need to be packaged for players. We have 4 first rounders within the next 2 years. 2 of them are ours.
Yeah.
Granted, but we have assets to move. So whether it's today, tomorrow, or in the offseason, I would not be surprised if some of these picks get moved for actual NHL players.
Real quick, the Max Domi trade just got finalized.
What was it?
So it's Max Domi, an AHL goaltender, being traded to Dallas from Chicago for a second and Anton Hudobin's contract. That's a big cap relief.
I forgot about that.
Because I think this was his last season.
What was that, like 4 mil for Hudobin?
Him? Yeah. I don't know the exact, because he was always buried, but yeah. Let's see if Cap Friendly updated it. They did not, which is fine. But okay. With that being said, Bertuzzi, Boston Bruin. I don't expect him to put up a lot of points, but I think Boston Bruins fans are definitely gonna like him.
They're gonna love him.
I don't think it's gonna take him long. And so that's that. We have probably about 10 minutes left. We'll talk about the 2 Penguin trades, and then we'll wrap it up. But you want to introduce the trades?
We'll start small, and we'll make our way up. So we got Teddy Bluger going to Vegas for Peter, not going to pronounce that name, and basically for a 3rd.
Yeah.
So you tell me what you think about it.
Well, obviously last Saturday, Kapanen got claimed, so that freed up $3.2 million, which was very nice. On Tuesday, we waived Friedman, and we waived him again. Neither of them got claimed, but right after the Bluger trade yesterday, we cleared up $2.2 million in Bluger, and then we sent down, right after the Bluger trade, we sent down McGinn and Friedman to the AHL. Them two alone cleared up another 1.9. So after those two moves, before the Granlund trade even happened, we had like $6 million in cap space, and we only had 12 NHL forwards and 7 NHL defensemen on our roster with $6 million. And obviously, Paling's still hurt, so we're going to get a defenseman or a forward. And we ended up getting Mikhail Granlund for this year's second-round pick, which I just want to say right now I'm completely okay with getting rid of this year's second-round pick. I knew from this season that Hextall wasn't even going to trade the first. And obviously, he still can, but I don't think so. I knew he wasn't going to trade the first. I knew he wasn't going to do anything with the first. I knew we were keeping the first. So I wasn't even thinking that was going to be an option. Obviously, when the Chychrun trades happened, yes, but I still never thought we were actually going to get him. So to get rid of the second is fine. Granlund, he had 64 points last season in 82 games, just last season alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But he's 31 years old, has 2 more seasons after this at $5 million. He can play center or wing. He sucks at defense, apparently.
Which I didn't know. I actually thought he was good.
Yeah, he sucks at taking faceoffs, which is fine because Jeff Carter has almost 60% in the faceoff draws, which is
news to you.
Which is honestly absurd. And he's basically a pure playmaker. But let me hear your thoughts first. That's just explaining everything, the situation. So
I actually don't necessarily hate it, aside from the term.
Yeah, I mean he's on pace for 50 points as well this season too on a selling.
So let me put it like this: the Penguins are obviously gonna they were buyers. I mean, because they're gonna as long as Crosby and Malkin.
Honestly, I will say this too: if the Bluger trade is the only trade that we made, I would have been happy with that too.
Right.
Obviously, it wasn't gonna happen.
But Granlund, oh my God, where is he? Yeah, so he does have 36 points right now. I mean, I remember when he was on the Wild, and he was like, I actually thought he was going to become like a stud. I don't know what happened. Aside from the term, I don't really hate it, honestly. If I was the Penguins, I think I said this to someone yesterday, one of my other friends, I said that I honestly just would have went after a pure rental. Obviously not.
They didn't want to do that though. The rumor was the Penguins did want players with term because if it was a rental, we weren't going to keep them.
Right, but the reason he has 2 years left or 3?
2 after this season.
Okay, it could be worse. It's not bad. Aside from the term, I don't really hate it. I mean, again, you only gave up a second. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I don't know. I feel like Pens fans were expecting a little bit more. I mean, you even texted me that I don't know if you're being serious, but you're like, Tom Wilson. I didn't know if you were being serious.
Tyler Kennedy tweeted that 20 minutes before the Granlund trade, and it was verified Tyler Kennedy on Twitter, and it's like, why would he just be saying that? And I could totally believe it too.
He just trying to be funny, I guess. I don't really know, but
you know what I mean? But here's the thing about Grant. Oh, well, you can finish up first. Finish up.
I was just gonna say, between the two, I would have probably taken Wilson, even though he just came off an injury and whatnot. He's been a little banged up this year. It's just what he brings.
Yeah.
I don't know what team would not want that. If I were to choose between the two, it'd be Wilson. But I don't hate the trade. I don't think the Pens lost by any means. I just aside from the term,
no.
Sorry.
And this is what I was saying to Pens fans yesterday on Instagram and on Twitter. I was saying to some of the Pens accounts too. It's like, let's give him 5 to 7 games, actual games of him playing, to see how he is. Because we don't like Jay Fresh. I do like Jay Fresh and all of his analytics and however the hell he gets those stats or whatever.
I don't get that, but
you get it. That's great. And I do favor analytics, like those kind of analytics. I do favor those into a player. Mm-hmm. However, it is definitely not all of it into a player. You know what I mean?
No.
So until I see Granlund actually play games and see, chances are we're probably going to put him on the third line wing, which is fine. It's fine not being center because Carter's really good at it, I guess. Mm-hmm. But wing's fine. But it's like there's a quote from Jason Zucker today. Obviously, Granlund and Zucker were teammates with the Wild for a very long time. They were great. And this is what Zucker even said. Obviously, there's probably a little bit of sarcasm and joking and lightheartedness into it, but he said, Jason Zucker said he played on a line with Mikhail Granlund in Minnesota for about 6 years. That's a long, he's familiar with this player, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They haven't played with each other for about 3-4 seasons now, but 6 years of experience just doesn't go away. Mm-hmm. So Zucker said this, he's a great passer. I always joke I have him to thank for my contract because I didn't really do much. He just stood there and he passed me the puck.
That is kind of funny.
The same one, but Zucker had like 30, 35 goals at one point, like 2 seasons of a 30-goal scorer, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you can, like, put Zucker, I know some people wanted Zucker, Carter, Granlund as a line, which it's not going to happen. Zucker, Malkin, Granlund, though, that's a great line, I think. I think that's scary. Or even, people were saying put Granlund on the first line because Gensel needs his goal scoring back. And Granlund's obviously really great at passing, and Crosby's scoring and passing. So a pure passer, pure sniper, and one who can do both. And then put Raquel works with everyone, by the way. It's just a fact. Put Raquel with Zucker and Malkin, and your third line looks like Rust, Carter, Heinen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot better than keeping it the top 6 the way that it is and just adding Granlund with Carter and Heinen.
Mm-hmm.
For tonight, maybe the next game, that's what they do. But in the long term, those lines, you can really, mix and match what you want, and I think Granlund can add a lot to either line.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's not really at a loss unless he's playing at center because, apparently his faceoffs aren't good defensively.
And Malkin, I looked the other day, out of his whole career, for only the 3rd time in his whole career is he above 50% in faceoffs this year. He's at 52.
Was he ever, bad at faceoffs?
Yes, it was horrible.
I did,
Crosby, he's having another great, he's at 55, so our center core doesn't need to change.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you want it to change with Carter, but in terms of winning faceoffs, that's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I really have no issue with it as long as he's not at center.
Yeah.
And then I love Heinen. I always love Heinen.
He's playing since Kaplan's gone. The 3 games since Kaplan's left, Heinen has been very noticeable. We'll admit.
And on daily faceoff it has Archibald and then Doc and then Kajula.
It's Kajula. We just called him up today because, like I said, we needed because Paling's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But Paling as our 4th line center is amazing. Everyone in the hockey community likes Paling that's familiar with him. The Penguins love Paling.
So who would go out?
Kajula, yeah,
okay.
for sure. Because we just called him up. He's barely played this season.
Yeah.
So, and O'Connor's been playing much better as of late. Archibald, you know what you're getting with him.
Just
Not
energy.
a lot of offense, just energy. And that's what you need in a 4th line.
Mm-hmm.
So, and one last thing, because we will end it soon, but, losing Teddy Bluger 3 seasons ago would have been heartbreaking. Last season would have been heartbreaking. This season, he just got his 2nd goal, but that night, Tampa was just giving out goals. Brian Elliott was just giving out goals. You know what I mean?
He likes to do that, yeah.
And his only other goal is an empty netter. Well, we can talk about this already.
Yeah.
So basically, Bluger's barely scored. He's very good on the penalty kill. Vegas, you're getting a great 4th line center. Vegas is definitely not bringing him back because Vegas already has a $98 million cap hit for next season already.
I could have told you that before the trade. So
Yeah. So he's going to be UFA. We could probably still sign him back, but we're not going to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But with Bluger, players like Bluger, players like Aston Reese, players like Tanev, they are very replaceable. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Any guy can hit, bring energy, block shots, kill penalties, and win faceoffs in the NHL. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At a cheap cap hit. So it's going to suck to see him go because he was a 2nd-round pick in 2012 or 2013.
Bluger?
Yeah.
Wow.
But he's also, his next contract, he's going to be in his 30s. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's 28, 29 now. Chances are his best hockey is either right now or he's seen of it.
Mm-hmm.
He's seen his best hockey. So his time here in Pittsburgh was definitely amazing. It's so sad he wasn't a part of the 2017 Cup team. I think he came in right after that. But you got good value. You got a 3rd-round pick, not in next year, so you can still flip that asset. And in terms for Granlund, you know what I mean?
Just let the next 3 to 5 games just see how the new bottom 6 does. That's really
Honestly, maybe tonight. I don't even care how we do tonight, to be honest, because Tampa, we smacked them.
That's right.
We smacked them twice this season to begin with. One of those losses being very recent. They lost their previous game too. I forget who that was to, but it was a pretty ugly loss. So
I can't find it.
and they played Brian Elliott to begin with. So
They gotta stop doing that, by the way. I don't
Yeah.
know what's wrong. I get
Yeah.
it. Maybe to them it doesn't matter because they have Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
But obviously he's playing tonight, so I'm assuming he's not going to let in 7. But I know whatever cap constraints that they're up against. But next year, Tampa Bay Lightning, or don't because we're in the same division as you.
Yeah.
Maybe don't go with Brian Elliott because there's got to be just any other backup goalie, fringe backup goalie that you can get. It's better than Brian Elliott.
Yeah. So
That's just
and
my 2 cents.
yeah, and it's at Florida in Tampa this time. So literally every reason points to us losing tonight, which I'm honestly fine with. So Penguins fans, if Granlund's like a -3 somehow tonight on the line with Jeff Carter, that might be bad in the long run, probably because Jeff Carter does make every player on his line worse, which is what I'm concerned about. But it's one game. Let's see how he does. And most importantly, people forget, last year's playoffs, Raquel only played in 2 games. He played in Game 7, which everyone did, but no one was 100%. He played in Game 1. He got hurt in the first period in Game 1. Penguins didn't even have a healthy Rickard Raquel at the trade deadline last year. Or our trade deadline wasn't even in the playoffs for that season. And the year before that, when we got Carter, Carter was probably our best player against the Islanders.
Which is crazy.
So,
They're saying that out loud now.
yeah,
And you're probably
I know. So let's trust Hextall in his trade deadline. I know this wasn't his first, second, or frankly third option, I would like to say.
Mhm.
And to say that the Penguins had $6 million at a trade deadline, we haven't had that much. And dude, I don't even think I even remember since the last time we did as being like a hardcore Pens fan. And he used 6 of that $5 million on Granlund is definitely frustrating.
Mhm.
But you got to let it play out. And technically now that some things have been done, we still have $2 million of cap space at the deadline for tomorrow.
Go get Nemestikov if you want.
No, I'm okay.
You don't want him?
Um,
He's already being retained by Tampa or whoever.
Tampa had a trade him. Apparently, Mikey Asimon's a great player, by the way. They got him.
All right.
Yeah, that's what the hockey.
Well,
ops
he'll go
said.
to Tampa and he'll look
He
great.
will.
But he was on San Jose.
Yeah, but nonetheless, like I said, there's a little under 20 hours left till the actual trade deadline ends at 3 o'clock on Friday. This is getting recorded at like 5:30 on Thursday. So there's probably still more to be done. I don't know what more's left. Like, there's really not much aside from depth pieces. Like, Nick Bukestad just got traded. And by the way, they retained on Bukestad, by the way. And the Oilers officially have 0 cap space. Regular cap space and counting LTIR, like, they have 0 cap space. That's why it was so important for them to retain 250 on Ekholm. Like, there was a reason for that, and that's why.
Well, I'm hoping some more like crazy stuff. Whether my team, your team is involved, I just want to see some more crazy stuff happen.
Oh, one last thing too. I will pull this up real quick. I think like 2 hours ago, so it's not 100% updated. Cap Friendly tweeted out in the last 2 weeks who's made the most trades, the teams. Do you have any guesses or what you think they could be, or who's like in the top?
The singular team that's made the most trades.
Yeah, he has all of them. Every team and how many moves they've made. First off, there are 3 teams who have made 0 trades. Can you name any of those 3 teams?
Yes, the Islanders.
No.
Really?
It's past 2 weeks. They got Ekholm.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, who? Jets.
No, they got Niederreiter, which is also a good trade for them. That's a steal.
Why am
I think we talked about that already. I'll just tell you so we don't waste so much more time. It's Calgary, no move yet. Seattle, no move, which doesn't surprise me because they don't really need to. Like they're kind of fine just staying still. And then Florida, which doesn't surprise me, not because I don't think they don't want to go for it, because they have no cap space and they have no assets to trade with. They're literally so restricted on what they can do right now.
Lost all those last deadlines. So.
Yeah, and all the players that make sense to flip are hurt. Like Bennett, who they were talking about flipping, is hurt. Hornquist is hurt, so whatever. Anyways, moving on. I'm just going to go quick now. With one trade in the last 2 weeks, we got Dallas, Montreal, New Jersey, Islanders, Flyers, and Winnipeg. But that Flyers trade, they traded like Isaac Radcliffe to the Preds for like nothing. So really,
Rare futures.
Yeah.
Love him.
Now with 2, Anaheim, Carolina, Detroit, LA, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and Tampa, which that St. Louis one has to be a lie. Yeah, that St. Louis one's definitely a lie.
Yeah.
It's all right, Cat Friendly. You've had a busy time. We'll give you a break. And then with 3 trades, Boston, Buffalo, Colorado, Edmonton, Ottawa, San Jose. Obviously nothing really major with Buffalo. 4 trades, Columbus, Minnesota, the Rangers, Vancouver, Vegas, and Washington. Number 5 all belongs to Toronto. Number 6, Arizona, Chicago, and Nashville. Which I think, for the most part, it's definitely does not none of. I think Calgary surprises me, but like look where Calgary's at in the standings right now. Like, I think the 8 teams in the West is set. It just matters of who's going to finish where. If you look real quick, I think the 8 teams are set, and it's the ones that are in right now.
Yeah.
But all those 8 teams, it's crazy. All those 8 teams are the ones that are going to make it. but all those 8 teams could finish anywhere than where they are right now.
And you also got to look at the strength of schedule for like a Seattle,
Oh,
Winnipeg. I'm not worried about Colorado; they'll be fine. But
Yeah.
the Seattle, Winnipeg.
Colorado's coming on strong as of late.
I mean, as they should. I don't know why anybody predicted that they,
Yeah.
were going to fall off or anything.
So yeah, there was everything with that, and obviously, quick news thing too. I told you earlier. Apparently, LA offered Gavrikov a contract, and he said he's going to test free agency. So, I don't like that trade for LA at all. Obviously, you're getting rid of Quick, who they flipped for nothing. We knew that.
Mm-hmm.
But getting rid of Quick, you had to. No one wanted to, but you had to.
Mm-hmm.
But you bring Korpisalo, who honestly stinks, and you bring in Gavrikov, who was literally outpriced by every other defenseman on the block. You know what I mean? So you're already getting. But if by chance that the Kings don't make the playoffs, I think the first round pick stays LA's, and they just give Columbus 2 second-round picks instead. So it's not the worst, but you gave up a first-round pick for Gav, and you're not winning the cup if you're LA. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's just with your goaltending, you have just
Phoenix
a mess.
Copley and God knows who else. But
Yeah.
Or Korpisalo, I guess.
So I don't like that trade. For the most part, all the other trades that have happened, I haven't had too much of an issue with. But that Kings one, I really didn't like because I know it was forced because of Chychrun
Yeah.
and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, maybe,
And those are the worst trades to make when you're forced.
maybe the LA weather makes him want to sign an extension, but as of right now, he looks like
Kevin Fiala can give him some pointers and stuff like that
Yeah.
on why I would like it. But other than that, we definitely went longer than we anticipated it. But we'll see what happens on the next day. Don't expect to hear from us. Hopefully we'll get an episode out sometime next week.
Mhm.
Just a filler episode. It doesn't have to be, date related on how new it is.
Mhm.
But this is it for at least the next week or so, maybe. Hopefully you enjoyed. We're excited to see what happens in the next day or two. We'll definitely report on the next time we meet here. Let us know who you think is going to get traded tomorrow. Other than that, anything else you want to end with?
No, it's been a crazy week, and the last 19, 20 hours, we're going to see how it
And
unfolds.
this is going to be a trade deadline I think we look back on and wow, we took that for granted. Which I don't even think we are, but we're just going to look back and be mesmerized at how that actually happened.
Mhm.
And why. Because who knows, there could be leaks on why all these teams are making trades so early, like in the future, like former GMs and agents, coming on like podcasts and stuff.
Mhm.
So we'll see the reason behind all this is, but nonetheless, I'm happy about it. Everyone's happy except people covering trade deadline day
Yeah.
on national broadcast, but not my problem. I'm not going to watch it anyways.
Nope.
But other than that, we hope you enjoyed our episode at least, and we will see you in the next one.
See ya.